Hello, everybody. It's Vanessa Petronelli here, and welcome to episode 13 of my Elite Women Live conversation series, where I invite special guests that I personally love and know into organic, real, authentic conversations. So today, my special guest is Baljit Rayat, a very dear friend of mine and an amazing colleague, powerhouse, and cosmic soul sister. So I'm going to invite her on here now in just a second so she can join me in this conversation. Okay. You're being added, Baljit. Works. Adding. Never know with technology. There we go.
It
Hi.
worked.
Yay. Welcome, welcome,
Yay.
welcome. So good to have you here. So
Thank
for
you.
those of you who are joining, please feel free to say hello. Mitzi, welcome. In a moment, Baljit and I are going to just dive right in and we're going to start our conversation. We have no idea what we're going to talk about today, but I know it'll be juicy because it always is. Hello, Frank. Hi, Maggie. Welcome, welcome. Say hello. Maybe tell us where you're from. And, for anybody who's catching this live or you're watching the replay, this is a conversation we're sharing with you. I could have these conversations with these women privately, but I've chosen to create this particular series over a year ago so that I could bring those private conversations public because they're so value rich, they're so deep, they're so juicy, and I feel like so many people, if you have access to them, can learn so much from these conversations. So you're invited into this conversation. We're gonna, ask you to engage and ask questions. If something is not clear or something resonates or doesn't resonate, please, just be respectful and loving and share in the comments below throughout this particular broadcast and then also on the replay. So without further ado, hello, Baljit. How you doing?
I'm good. How are you?
I'm good. Riding the waves of this massive,
I know it's
massive
been intense.
cycle of transformation. And today I have a smiling face on. There's no tears, but I say it honestly because it's what's fucking real right now.
I know.
And I know that, spirit is just like scrubbing away all those parts of me that are not in harmonic resonance with where I'm being headed. So I know it's all in service to my growth.
Yeah.
And in service to humanity when I'm out of the cycle as well. I'm embodied even more of who I am. So I'm good. I'm good.
I have a box of Kleenex just in case.
Oh, I love it. Mine's over in the corner by my meditation cushion. So I just got to wipe them away.
I know.
Yeah. So, I mean, I don't know if you can relate. Are you finding that you're kind of going through a big transformational cycle as well? Or like, what's it been like for you?
You know what? It's my BS meter has I have a tolerance now. Like I've had to practice really strong boundaries more than ever. Even like last week, I actually let go of 2 clients because it was just a different caliber. And so my tolerance level for BS, I can't hold space anymore for certain energies, which is a good thing. It's positive.
Yes.
So it's been quite the ride, and it's just been simple because I've just gotten more clear than having to hold space for the energy and process when, whether it's client or friend or whatever. I've just gotten so, I'd say over the last 3 weeks, just so clear, and I'm still moving through, what's truth, what doesn't resonate with me. So yeah, less
I love
tears,
that.
but just more like tenacity.
Yeah, just like,
yeah.
just like there's just a level of clarity. Yeah. There's a level of precision. I call it like precision impeccability that I think is being required of us right now. And I love that. And I mean, I've had the privilege of working with Baljit. We've done some incredible work together. I just absolutely love your work and supporting you in that. And one thing that I know for sure about Baljit is she's really crystal clear on boundaries. And I love that you brought that up because I think that probably a lot of people who are watching, and you guys can, agree or disagree with this. I think boundaries for light leadership and for light workers it's a really big thing, because I think there's some sort of like dissonance or bypass or programming that is sort of sitting in our cells and in our consciousness that says, I am here to help everyone. I am
Mm-hmm.
here to allow whoever I need into my field, and I'm going to hold space and be kind and loving and compassionate, and then feel like we just go into the spell of just having such poor, unhealthy boundaries. And then we get resentful, and then we get upset that things aren't going the way we want them to, or we don't have the right clients, or we're not serving the right customers. And we don't actually realize that it's actually a boundary thing. And like, I think that there's this like reprogramming that's almost happening for us on such a deep level now, that's saying you need boundaries. Sovereignty, boundaries are so important for light leaders and for people who are on this mastery path of spirituality and personal development and growth, that it's something we have to embody. It's not something that is just a floating concept that is available for others. It's also available for us as practitioners, healers, coaches, consultants, leaders, CEOs, et cetera, et cetera. I mean, are you seeing that happening with a lot of your clients? Because I've been noticing it's been really up for me as in my
Mm-hmm.
work and with myself for a while now.
Yeah, totally, totally. And also like the topic around bypass, I'm glad that you brought that up, because I find like in a lot of communities, people that are light workers, healers, coaches and stuff, there is, I would say, a misunderstanding of what boundaries are. And there's a difference between boundaries and barriers, where I see barriers as more of like walls, and boundaries are just a healthy way of aligning to your truth and getting clear on creating a sacred container, what works for you and what doesn't work for you, and letting go of having to feel obligated to, just because you have a gift doesn't mean you have to like, feel obligated to share it with everybody. Doesn't mean that way.
Right.
It's actually more of a disservice if you do that, and you lose a lot of energy. You're like really spreading yourself thin. So boundaries has been like one of the major topics.
Yeah, I agree
Yeah.
with you. And it's also, and you know this too, because we talk a lot about it.
Yeah.
And, it's funny because I've had reflections from many clients. Oh my God, you have such strong boundaries. I'm like, oh my God, there's still more work to do
Yeah.
around that. I feel like there's so much depth that we can go into around energy management, as we've talked about,
Yeah.
and boundaries. And I mean, it's actually one of the reasons why I don't trans channel on Facebook Live or just publicly
Mm,
do it for free.
yeah.
It's really taxing for me. It's something I really enjoy, but I also want to invite people into a container who are really ready to receive that type of transmission versus just the conversational energetic transmissions through just me being a conscious channel. I have to have boundaries for myself where I'm just not like pouring all this out just because I know it's going to help a lot of people. It's like, no, I want to
Hmm.
invite people into my different levels of offerings who are ready for it, not just for them and their readiness, but also for me, because after going through so much hell, I want to say, in a way, with just even my physical body and the physical embodiment of holding these frequencies and bringing these energies in. I was somebody who just gave and gave and gave to the point of my own detriment and depletion. And I'm very fully aware now, if I have to work with less people and even give less out into the world right now out of protection for my own boundaries and my sovereignty, I will do that, because this
Hmm.
is my journey.
Hmm.
And we can't forget that, as I think light leaders, that we're having our own personal journeys. We're not just here to be human emotional garbage cans, or just to take people's shit, or just to be in service all the time. Like, we also have to watch out and care for ourselves. And that's the greatest act of love that we
Yeah.
can truly embody, and then have the capacity to give out of that space, versus the space of having no boundaries, just giving our gift out to everyone because we think that everyone could use it.
And it's definitely related to a lot of the programming that many of us have had through, like, whether it's cultural background and religion or just
Yes.
societal of like servitude. And so that subconscious mindset says, oh, I should serve everybody. You know what I mean? It's the servitude energy. And the whole point is we're here to claim our sovereignty and let go of the slavery energy, that servitude that we have within ourselves. And that's been a journey for myself, because I was like a certified people pleaser back in the days.
Me too.
And I've
Hi.
had to let that certificate go and burn that certificate. And and you know, it's sometimes you don't even realize that you're in that servitude energy.
Right.
And it's more of a need to fulfill a false illusion than that misdirects you from your purpose, that misdirects you from where your energy really needs to be. And I find that when you have good, solid, healthy boundaries, you then are able to really channel your gifts. You're actually
Mm.
then on purpose, you're able to have that container to express gracefully what you've come here to do, then misdirect, your purpose and your identity and everything else.
So true. So for you, I'm curious if you could share this, if you're open to
Yeah.
sharing it, of course.
Yeah.
When did you realize, because I think that this is such a perfect, time in the conversation to talk about that people pleasing piece, because I know a lot of us who do this type of work, who are in service to others, which is, beyond being a coach or a healer or an intuitive, whatever it might be. When did you realize that people pleasing certificate, as you called it, actually was working against you? Because I don't,
Mm-hmm.
like you said, like sometimes you don't realize it. So I'm curious for you, like, what did you notice in your physical reality that was playing out to suddenly say, oh, wait a second, like something's not right here. I need
Yeah.
to work on this. I need to take a look at this and start to dissolve and let this go, because it's not actually in service fully for my gifts and my purpose. Like, what was happening for you that actually showed you
Mm-hmm.
that this is going on?
It actually started to appear in 2013, and funny enough, I was doing a certification in Tantra, Tibetan Tantra. So I was doing a lot of shadow work, and a lot of it's like breath technique meditation. And I was getting challenged with my boundaries with my clients. So I had full-time coaching clients, like goddess programs, and I realized that I was still getting depleted, even though I was just living my passion. I left the
Mm.
architectural industry because that's my background, and going full time into, intuitive mentorship. But something was missing, and I was like, there's still a pattern here that I'm playing out, which is I was still running the people pleasing, even though I was helping people with people pleasing.
Yeah.
And I was also in a relationship too at that time, and I was people pleasing in the relationship. So and even in my friendships, it just started to magnify, and I just got to
Mm.
the point where I reached a tipping point where the relationship collapsed. And then I actually took a step back from my mentorship and actually got a part-time job because my soul needed a break. I was exhausted.
Mm.
And um, and then a year later, one of my best friends, my soul brother, took his own life. And then
Mm.
literally after that, there was a lot of truth that was coming up in my past relationship. So there was a lot of like truth and exposure. I was finding out things that, I didn't know about, that I
Mm-hmm.
kind of knew, but I was being oblivious
Right.
about it. And I was like, holy crap, like, this isn't this is something needs to shift. And so it was between like 2013 and 15. I went through like kind of like what you went through, the night of the dark. You know what I mean? I literally was in this like energy that I was like, something needs to change, and it's how I'm
Mm.
showing up that's not serving anymore. And I let myself heal. I let myself go within. And through that, it was like, I got really clear. I was like, oh, I'm still leaking my energy in certain ways. That's not serving. Doesn't serve myself. It doesn't serve, you know, the people in front of me as well. So yeah, it was around that time.
Mm. Thank you for sharing that.
Yeah.
I appreciate it. So when you did end up working on that for yourself, did you notice, and like you resolved it, right? Like
Oh
resolved
yeah.
it on a deeper level. what was on the other side of it? Because I think it's also important for people to know, okay, you realize that, you recognize that, and then what did you get out of coming to this place of like seeing this in front of you and doing the work around it? Like what's been the result for you on the other side?
A whole new level of respect, a whole new level of clients. It was like my passion came back again of like,
Hmm.
and the other thing that some of you who are watching, like I started DJing. Like I learned how to DJ back in 2010, and um, I even went to DJ school, and then I between 2013 and 14, I just didn't touch my mixer. I just let it go. So everything was stagnant.
Hmm.
And when all that stuff happened, it was like a big, deep awakening. And after like recovering from the people pleaser dynamic, it was like my passion came back, and I had
Hmm.
this space. I had the space to create, and I was like, oh, I'm gonna DJ again, and then I manifested a studio just downtown in Vancouver to practice and have like a new controller to work with, and like the people just came in, like people just dropped in because I created space for it.
Hmm.
And the same thing happened with friendships, like new aligned friendships came along, and just everything expanded, everything just started to align and drop in. I didn't have to search for it at all. Just sort of like, okay, now you're ready because you created space for it.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. I love that. I love that. I mean, we want to cling sometimes so much to the parts of ourselves
Yeah.
that actually, like, we know are not in service to our
Hmm.
expansion and to the truth and sovereignty of who we are. And yet it's so hard to let those pieces go because we think like we're afraid of the loss, right? We're afraid of losing that and not knowing, what's on the other side. So it's more like we're fearing the known than the unknown, I think.
Yeah.
Because like the known, we know what's happening. And then on the other side, we know that if we resolve these pieces to ourselves, like something greater is going to await. And I love that because, when we go through awakenings are just really chiseling away our ability to really deal and have a spectrum of like handling our pain.
Hmm.
Like
Hmm.
we're here to experience all these parts of ourselves, not run away from them. Like there's, and yes, the work that we do helps to create the space to open up, to something greater, greater clarity, precision, focus, purpose, creativity, inspiration,
Hmm.
all of those things. But it's really like in like what I'm also noticing is like even for myself going through this cycle that I've been in. I mean, this is just another awakening, part of my way, and I've been through series of them. And what I find that it's doing is it's helping me to become so present to my pain that I'm
Hmm.
in. I'm not in pain every moment. I'm not talking like I'm like on the floor in a puddle of tears every waking moment of every day. But it's like my capacity to hold all parts of myself, even the
Hmm.
parts of myself that are not absolutely in resonance with the truth of who I am and where I'm heading, that
Hmm.
it's being like cleaned and cleared and dissolved and resolved and acknowledged on all levels of my being. It's like it's the capacity for me to be able to hold it and also not even look at it like I need to get rid of this so that I experience that. There's something deeper happening in this process because so much of our attachment is to a lot of the things we do as practitioners and healers. Like I want to work on myself so that I don't have to feel this way anymore. I want to meditate so I don't have to feel what's going on or deal with this thing. So on the other side of it, I can experience that. But it's like being able to hold both of these experiences, I'm feeling like equally now.
Yeah,
Like it's a whole
totally.
other, and I know I've kind of shifted even what you were saying and kind of taken it to kind of another level. Um, because I also see that there's a danger in like, oh, I've got that thing, so I need to just get rid of it so that I can experience what Baljit's experiencing now that she doesn't have that people pleaser. And so
It
we have
still
like,
comes up once in a blue moon. It's not
sure,
like, because we're always going to, support, like go through what we're supposed to teach. It's not like,
yes,
there's still times where I'm like, oh shit, I just did like a little, and
Right,
I
right.
take a few steps back and I recalibrate, you know, um, like you said, it's like an identity of like the fear of like the unknown and loss as well, and having to know how to manage your energy and still look at your pain. I call it compassionate detachment. It's one of my mentors taught me, where it's
Mm,
you're compassionate with what you see, but you're detached from having to be all absorbed in processing and stuff like that. You can actually just be an observation and be equanimous about it and just be like, okay, cool,
mm-hmm.
and instantly shift energy.
Yes, yes, I totally get that. I totally get that. Now, for you, with clients, what are you noticing is coming up a lot for them? Like without obviously disclosing confidentiality and all that.
Yeah. Yeah.
Like what are you noticing in the field that's playing out the most for people right now? Yeah, I'm kind of curious if it's like just
Yeah.
something collectively that you're seeing going on around this type of level of intensity and transformation, because I'm seeing that reflected in my reality. Like a lot of people are going
Yeah.
through major ego death and
Yeah.
identity loss. But maybe that's just because I'm going through a big change and awakening through that myself.
Yeah,
I
that's
don't
true.
know.
That's true.
Right?
Um, I would say it's not only it's boundaries. Boundaries is such a big thing that all of my
Yeah.
clients go through with their clients or with relationships. Like boundaries is like the number one thing. And then the second piece is sexual energy.
Mm.
And it's funny because you normally don't think about sexual energy when it comes to running a business. And when I'm tuning into a client's energy field, or I just see what's happening with why they're not getting clients, or, what's going on with their purpose, or why something just feels
Mm-hmm.
like not aligned, I just get shown their sexual energy, their sacral chakra, and the root, and it's like I'll know something's disconnected,
Yeah.
and then I could see the pattern. So then there's pattern dynamics. I feel like there's a lot of stuff happening in the entertainment industry where there's the Me Too movement, all that stuff's coming out, and I believe that it's the shadow pieces that are just coming out to really talk about sexual energy and how it's so easy to misuse our sexual energy and not realize how precious our sexual energy is, and how it's literally it's our
Mm.
connected spiritual energy. When people reach an orgasm, it's actually a brush of enlightenment, and so that's why
Mm.
we keep chasing for that orgasm. We want that enlightenment, right?
Mm-hmm.
So it's 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 understanding how to use your sexual energy and cultivate that, and it doesn't necessarily mean like by having sex. It's working through your programming, what you were taught about how to use your sexual energy. There's a lot of religious and cultural programming that disconnects your sexual energy from your heart center, and from your business as well. And when that happens, you really disconnect from your gifts. Your gifts have this creative energy. That's how we,
Mm.
utilize it. So, along with the sexual energy, too, is when people avoid that part and they're just running a business, it also creates a disconnect where some of my clients are ungrounded and they don't know why things are not happening, because it has to do with them grounding into their body, feeling embodied, and also being visible. So it's the pieces of sexual energy that ties into embodiment, which ties into visibility, which then ties into the boundaries. It's like this whole container.
Yeah, I love that. I mean, I really feel like we're going through a major awakening around
Yeah.
like not it's not about transcending anymore and being out of the body and traveling
Yeah.
outwards. It's really about how do we bring this energy inwards
Yeah.
and coming back into the body and really resolving some of those woundings and the defragmented parts of ourselves and the programming and the conditioning around aspects of our own being. And I mean, what greater piece around, I think emotions, and sexuality are, the gateway to spirituality, to true, like what we talked about, like enlightenment really having our deeper spiritual awakenings and mastery. And so much of it is just about, I feel like in the past with spiritual development is just about like the leaving of the body. And
Mm-hmm.
I
Mm-hmm.
mean, I think for me, a big part of it is like a lot of the density that I've been feeling, because it's been very dense, is bringing all that energy into the body and working within the physical realm now of bringing this energy through versus like leaving or going out and finding it. Because for a
Mm-hmm.
lot of people like ourselves, it's very easy to leave the body, energetically. It's safer for a lot of us. It feels more spacious. It feels just lighter and easier. And then if we've had trauma, which I think every human being on the planet has some level of that, whether they're small traumas and a series of that or big traumas, we carry traumas stored in our body, and we got to come back in and really work through those pieces, which is why every client that I talk to, like we talk about sexuality and we talk about going and getting good body work done while we're working together. I can't be the one-stop shop for everything.
Mm-hmm.
You need to be working on the nervous system. You need to be working on your sexual energy. You need to be working on, getting your body to be able to be supported by the energies that are coming in and that we're working with. And we cannot separate those things anymore, because that's actually causing such, fragmentation in our connection to ourselves and to each other. And so it's not just about running a business anymore or being in service anymore. It's really about being, I think, like what I hear you saying, my interpretation of that is it's in being of greater service to ourselves and to our full experience of that, which in turn our beingness has the ability to be in even greater service to more people as a result.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, absolutely. And I like how you brought that in about, you know, I feel it's important that we have our own self practice of being embodied. So for myself, it's like I'll go for monthly floats. Like it's like my way of like taking care of myself so I can be the best channel. And also each week I'm always getting like a chiropractic adjustment. Like I do certain things for my body to ground me and keep me here. And especially with the work that you and I both do, we're diving into different realms.
Yeah.
And it's funny because even my tolerance of connecting with other people who stay in those realms, I can't. It's like I have to be here. I have to
Yeah.
connect in my body. It's like it's it's what I feel ready for, and it's just what I've been doing. It's whereas like if you had met me probably even 5 years ago, I was so used
Mm-hmm.
to hanging outside of my
Right.
body and just um, so yeah, I definitely agree. I feel like we are really meant to find actually that safety back into our body and realizing that we are really safe once we align back to our truth. And there is a false illusion of being outside of our body, because when you're outside of your body, it's like your physical body literally gets taken over and you just end up feeling scattered. So technically it's not really safe. You just feel like shit.
Right.
So might as well come back in your body. So when you come back in your body, you're just
Mm-hmm.
like, oh, this actually feels good. Like my body feels good. I can feel my sexual energy and that feels good. I can manifest. That feels great. It's like, and then you start attracting people that you're meant to, align with. And embodiment, I feel, is it's such a I feel like it's a collective theme. That's what's happening right
Yeah.
now. People are really dropping in, shedding a lot of, I want to say, the false identity or the identity that they build themselves up to be, including ourselves, and really like coming into this sovereignty of like, okay, this is who we really are. And still it's a
Mm.
journey. Yeah.
It really is a journey. It's like I've been in such an inquiry of really looking at the identity of like myself as the healer, the channel, the coach, and like who am I without
Mm,
any of these labels? Like who is
yeah.
Vanessa in just her pure presence and beingness without doing any service of any like doing that's the key, doing the service or
Yeah.
being the coach or the
Yeah.
healer or the channel or whatever it might be, the CEO or the executive or like it's like peeling those layers away and just like being in full integration of my full, I call it multi-dimensional self, and
Mm-hmm.
being here in the body, like integration of all those pieces.
Mm-hmm.
And it's been wild being through this journey and going through this and going through another level and layer of it. It's far more complex. Like I'm still in this process. So I don't even have the full language to be able to articulate it clearly. Because if I'm trying to find language to articulate it, it's because I want out of it, as opposed to just like being in it and being present with it moment to moment, which is really difficult, but also necessary to allow life and spirit to do its work through me right now, on
Mm-hmm.
whatever level that is, but doing the work through me in an embodied way, not in a way where I'm like leaving. And so
Mm-hmm.
it's I see that too. I really see that we were going through a massive shift around that. And so many, I think, ways in which we thought we were supposed to operate, or like even in business, I've been saying this since last year, like my Palladian guides are like, yeah, the way business is being run, it's slowly dissolving and it's crumbling. The way you've been running it, the way a lot of your peers have been running it, as successful as you all might be, you're going to see there's going to be some changes on how business is being run moving forward. And to be on the cutting edge, as you would like to be and you declare yourself to be, means you're also going to ride the wave of what it means to go through this process of creating a whole new paradigm of leadership and business and entrepreneurship. We
Mm-hmm.
cannot operate out of the same ways of how we've been. And I think the embodiment piece, and not being in our emotions and ignoring the sexual energy, not paying attention to our identities and the patterns and our habits, all of these things that are coming up are in actual full support of this next level that I think so many of us are headed right now,
Yeah.
and what we're working through. So I kind of want to shift gears for a moment. I want to get a little weird. Are you
I
okay
was
with
gonna
that?
say, can we speak alien now?
I know, right? I feel them kind of going, can we come in now?
Yeah,
So for
totally.
those of you who are like not into this is your time to depart.
Yeah.
The spaceship has come, it's landed,
Yes,
you can
totally.
be beamed up and go
Yeah.
back somewhere else.
Yeah.
And if you want to get weird, let's get weird, and you're welcome
Yeah.
to stay.
Welcome.
Yeah,
Now,
welcome.
now we're getting real.
Hello. I know, now we're getting real. All the other
Yeah.
stuff, yeah, okay.
Yeah. It's
Um,
like,
I am like, it's not every day that I actually, well, I mean, here in San Diego, I have a lot of conscious friends and community spiritual friends, all that, who are, I mean, we're really into galactic stuff in this area. It's not the norm, I don't think, for most people around the world. And so when I'm meeting a fellow cosmic soul sister, and like when I really literally meant that in the copy when I was writing it for the post around promoting our
oh, and I got it.
conversation.
I got
I
it.
know you got it. It's like, I'm not just saying, oh, fellow cosmic soul sister, because it's cute. Like
Yeah.
literally, like
Yeah.
I don't get to meet people who do. You have your own variation of channeling and the way you work. And I'd love for you to share a little bit about that process for yourself in terms of like what it's been like, because really, like, I think when we start to access our extraterrestrial origins, and by the way, guys, one thing I just really want to set everyone up to understand, especially those who are like ETs, like I don't believe in any of that stuff. We actually are extraterrestrial ourselves. So imagine there's another planet looking at us. We are alien to them. So we are at this point where right now I feel like we're really turning on the multidimensional extraterrestrial self,
Mm-hmm.
awakening DNA, awakening like cellular remembrance of like who we are, our gifts, where we've come from, having access to other realms and dimensions and timelines, et cetera, and of course beings from other planets, from other dimensions, from other galaxies. Like, I like to really bring this down to earth for people in a way that maybe people may not agree or may not resonate or understand, but at least I'm in my truth of my own experience, and can also educate and inform people of maybe another way of looking at life, or humanity, or our existence as human beings on this planet through the experiences I've had. So I'd love for you, if you're open to sharing a little bit about like your
Absolutely.
cosmic connection, and like how
Mm-hmm.
this unfolded for you, because I always find that there's such unique stories when I talk to
Mm-hmm.
people who are fellow channelers, and especially galactic
Yeah.
guides and whatnot here on the planet. So the floor is
Yeah.
yours, my dear. I'm really
I'm so
curious to hear because I
excited.
don't even think I know this story either. So
No, I don't think you know. I was like, did you
I'm just
say
gonna sit
galactic?
back.
I'm here.
Galactic.
um, yeah, it was when I was learning Akashic records through my mentor, still my mentor to this day, Jennifer Longmore, and love her to pieces. And she just came at a perfect time because had I've always felt like an alien. I always felt like a black sheep in the family. I remember asking my brother, like, was I adopted? And my brother was like, no, dude, you're not adopted. Because I was like, why am I in this brown body? Like, I feel different. And
Uh-huh.
I didn't know how to describe feeling different, you know? And while I was working in architecture, and at the same time, I became a Reiki master. I was doing all this energy healing, but I came across this modality that really tapped into Palladian energy.
Mm.
And I was working with a lot of galactic energy, and it opened up a whole other realm. And this was back in 2006 and 7 to 2009, in between
It's been
that
a while
time.
for
Yeah,
you. Then
yeah,
you've really been
yeah,
working with this energy. It's
yeah,
amazing.
yeah. Thank you. And
Hmm.
so a lot of people didn't know what that was, and so I just say it's energy healing. And I started to connect with these beings, and that were of the highest light. And I then started to channel sacred geometry just on paper, but I was just like, oh, this is interesting. But what happened was I opened up some sort of portal because when I was working one day at an architect firm, I was working on a site plan. For whatever reason, I always got put into site planning. And so, site plan is when you're working on an aerial view of a site. And
Mm.
I worked with a lot
Okay.
of retail. And I've always been fascinated with crop circles. I've like
Me
watched,
too.
yeah, like just anything crop circles. But I always found it so generic. I'm like, tell me the message. Like, what is it? You know?
Right.
And while I was working one day, I just started to channel sacred geometry on this architectural software, but I could feel the energy, and my coworker next to me could too. And she leaned over and she said, "What are you doing?" And I was like, "I don't know." Like I was just sort of in
Huh.
a trance. And I continued during work for like an hour, and I emailed it to my home, like to my home computer at the time. And I printed it at home. And when I did, I think I still have some here. No, I put it away. But anyhow, when I did print it out,
Hmm.
I just had like a homecoming experience. I experienced, I would call it ecstasy. It was just this oneness. And it was the most euphoric feeling ever. And it felt like home. And
Mm.
I didn't know what it was. And so I remember telling Jennifer, my mentor at the time, I was like, something just came through. So she ended up doing a future progression instead of a past life progression. And when we did the future progression in the Akashic record, she went really deep in this hypnosis. And what came through was that these sacred geometry images are called star activations. And these
Mm.
are activations that come through the Milky Way, and it's to help deprogram our societal programming, our governmental and all earthly programmings. So it made me realize that there's so much energy beyond us, that beyond what our human brain can even understand. And our
Yes.
human brain tries to articulate so many things, but there's so much beyond our human brain. And when we can surrender to that truth,
Hmm.
it's more of a frequency, a feeling tone. Then I start to understand, like, oh, that's what the star activations are all about. It goes beyond what the human brain can understand, so that people can really embody who they are and access their multi-dimensional self, because we're beyond our 3D
Mm.
body. We are meant to be here in this one fragment of our soul, but we have access to all of our other fragments, and it's being
Right.
aware of that. And then I started to get people asking for personalized uh, star activation things, and I was like, well, what do I call them? And I was like, oh, they're soul blueprints. Instead of a blueprint of a building, in architecture,
Mm.
it's a blueprint of a soul. So that's what I started to do, and that's how the Star Activation Soul Blueprints came along. So it's a sacred geometric image of your actual soul and how it expresses itself, and receiving the transmissions that you're meant to receive through sacred geometry. And so it takes you out of this, like, we always want to hear things with our human words. So it's
Yeah.
so different getting an Akashic record reading. And when I do someone's soul blueprint, I mean, you've had yours done, and so I don't speak to you. I just ask you a question, and you go about your day for a week,
Right.
and that's how I get the real information. It's when we're not speaking, and the real information drops in, and then I like bridge it through human words of what came through. So it's been such a profound experience of really connecting to the galactic realm, and I'm humbled by it,
Mm-hmm.
and to the point where, you know, it just feels like home for me. It's second nature, and to bring that information forward for many star seeds, star beings, for them to understand themselves, star angels, I feel like it's so important, because the commonality with many people that are star beings is that you feel alone, you feel isolated, you feel different.
Yes.
Um, and it's a lot of them are people that are in tech, people that are like artists, that are visionaries, because you have this visionary mind. You know, you can see so many
Mm-hmm.
realms. You're very tapped in and very, very sensitive. So to understand that deeper part of yourself, I feel like it is so important to acknowledge that, and you know, yeah. So that's how.
Hmm. I love it. I love
Yeah.
it. And it takes a lot of courage, to speak about these things and to be able to embody it. Was there ever a time for you in your journey of, coming out as a galactic guide, somebody who does this work with individuals, with groups? Like, was there ever a time for you when you felt afraid of sharing this, or has it really just been really easeful and just graceful for you the entire way through?
Honestly, it's been easeful and scary, as in like, oh my God, like what are people gonna say? Like I remember
Right, yeah.
I did like three big events inside of a planetarium, like in the Star Dome here in Vancouver, BC, where I channeled the Star Activation Soul Blueprints on a screen in the dome. And then I collaborated with an electronic music DJ and producer. So I did like a whole experiential journey to help people like understand, but have more of an experience, that goes beyond. And it was, scary at the same time, because it was like, are they really going to get it? Are they going to
Mhm.
understand? Um, so my connection with my Galactic Federation of Light, my team, I always ask them, how can I help translate this better? And
Mm.
they've always told me it's through your, the soul blueprints, because you'll be able to translate it in human words. It's through your DJing. You'll be able to express it in music through frequency.
Mhm.
Um, and being able to use certain frequencies when we connect with our guides. So and I've always had like certain people that have been like a guide to be like, hey, come check Baljit out. Like they'll just bring a bunch of people. And then I used to have like healing circles, and I even started doing teleseminars, star activation healing teleseminars, where you just lie down and just get a healing transmission. So it was definitely, once that door opened, I couldn't close the door. I couldn't.
Yes. Hmm.
You just can't, or
You
else you get the
can't.
2x4 or the 4x4.
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
you can't ignore it.
No, you can't, and there's no way to
Yeah,
go backwards.
no.
It's literally like, I mean, and it's a part of the agreement we made, I believe, in our soul contracts, to come here to also bring this energy through and to embody that at this particular
Yeah,
time in human history. So,
yeah.
I very much relate to the whole piece around, I know in every cell of my being, I'm here to bring this through, that this is a part of my
Hmm.
path and my journey. And there's also the human part, right? Because we can't forget
Yeah,
about that. That's like, What are people going to think? How are people going to respond? Am I going to lose my followers? Are people going to run for the hills? Am I going to go out of business?
Yeah.
Like
Yeah.
all of these things that come up as a result of stepping into this work, because it still is a little underground. It still is a little taboo for people. It still is one of those things that, I do think that there's a lot of the population that does believe in galactic, beings and extraterrestrials and all of that. And, in fact, I think my friend David Herstowski, I don't know if you know him, but he's also a Galactic channel. He did some research on the statistics that, pretty much like 50% of the US population, I think in Canada, maybe in England, I don't know, don't quote me on this, guys, but something along those lines. It was a huge number, actually. I was very surprised to hear that, believe in life on other planets. And so, there is a lot of people, I think, in pockets or even secret, who have this connection to their galactic origin, or have this interest or curiosity around it, but don't have the place where they can talk about it, where they can express it, where they can dive more deeply into, where they can discover that they're a star seed, or get access to these things, which is why I love having these conversations, because people who are listening, who are identifying with this, can know that they're not alone, that there are people like ourselves who are guiding people through this journey of really getting, I call it galactivated, and bringing through stuff that is not of, the norm, so to speak. I mean, I look at it like your star activations are absolutely beautiful. I love my soul blueprint. Lauren was saying that too. I agree with her. I have it on my phone, both as my screensaver and my wallpaper. For me, it's like my operatic tones that I do in my channeling events and with my sessions with my clients, and my light language. It's like the frequency goes beyond what the human mind or even the English language can interpret. And as a result, it has the ability, the frequency is a sacred geometry, the energy has the ability to penetrate beyond what the ego is trying to figure out, or the mind trying to figure out logically, and actually do the work on a much deeper level, on a cellular level, DNA level, on the unconscious realm, on the energetic realm, on the physical body, without our minds getting in the way of it. And, sound and music and frequency, it's all frequency and energy related. And I do believe that that is what is going to, in all essence, really, truly heal the planet and help more people to awaken. I mean, I've seen this more and more as I've been working with my galactic counterparts, that the biggies are nervous system work and really expanding our ability to hold more higher frequencies of energy in the body, and really bringing in sound work, healing work, frequency work, because once the frequency is embedded within us, and it's like even in like, the plane here, right, invisible airwaves, so to speak, if the frequency is different, then we have the ability to really alter the course of our own lives and our own, physical DNA. So, we're talking stuff that probably maybe in the next 5, 10, 15, 20 years, I'm imagining is going to be the norm, is going to be something that most people are going to have direct access to. I mean, I remember, 10 years ago or 8 years ago, something like that, saying, coaching is going to be the thing. Everyone's going to have a coach. The next 7, 8, 9 years, everyone's going to have a coach. And of course, like here we are, like we're in such an oversaturated market now of coaches. Everyone and their grandmothers is a coach these days. And it's not
great.
It's great. Yeah. I mean, it's like
we didn't have that back then.
Right. Yeah. People are like, we need coaches. We need to help people. I want to, awaken. I want to do this work. So we're in this realm right now of just really expanding and opening up, which is why this is actually not so weird. And the other night, actually, I was invited to there's a small soul gathering with some people here in San Diego, and I was asked actually to talk about what I do and do like a 20-minute, presentation around it. And, several of the people there had absolutely no connection to any of the galactic work. And I actually just shared my story. I didn't really even go into the nitty-gritty of how I do things or what I specifically do. I shared kind of the general idea of it. And it was amazing the feedback that I received from the individuals that were listening. And there were different generations. We're talking like, millennials to all the way people who are, my parents' generation, our parents' generation, where they're just like, I've never heard of such a thing before. And there's something within me that like kind of resonates with this, or I can feel that this is like really true for you. And even though I've never heard of this, I'm not even sure if it's true for me, there's something about it that is resonating on some level for me. So
Mm-hmm.
I believe that people like ourselves, we're here to create an accessibility and an opening for more people like us and beyond that, to remember that we are not just this physical body, we are not just this physical dimension, that we are so much more than that.
Mm-hmm.
And we have the opportunity now to awaken those parts of ourselves. And when we start to awaken those parts of ourselves, my gosh, like life gets really, really fascinating and interesting. Does
I
it not?
agree. I agree.
Like it's really,
And fun.
really fun. Yeah,
Yeah.
it
Yeah.
totally is. It totally is. So I know
Yeah.
we're out of time. Amazing how just the hour kind of goes by.
I know.
There's a lot of, people who've said hello and have agreed with us here. Thank you to everyone who's joined us here today. This is a great opportunity. If you are watching and you do have any questions for Baljit and I too, just really quickly pop that on. I know you've got to go because you've got another engagement after this that you need to be involved in. Before we go, and we'll just give people an opportunity if they want to ask any questions or share any of their thoughts. Curious, is there anything that you've got going on that you want people to know about? Like, how can people find you? Is there anything that any offerings or anything that people can, if they feel a connection to connecting with you or, finding out
Yeah.
more about you, where can they go, Baljit?
Well, if they want to check out my sets, you can go to DJ Rainbow Bridge. So it's the SoundCloud. And if you want to find out more, you can go to lotusdestiny.com. My main focus right now is really working with the soul blueprints because I find that they've been such a great tool along with working in the Akashic Records. So if people are really looking at wanting to align to their gifts and talents and really understanding themselves beyond human and be able to bridge that back into themselves, then definitely the Star Activation Soul Blueprints, that's my main focus right now.
Cool.
Thank you.
You can pop it in the comments below after as well, for people to find you if you'd like. And we will be answering any questions or any comments on the replay as well. So if you're catching this afterwards, again, post, engage. We're here. This is a conversation between Baljit and myself, but it's inclusive of everyone else here because we're a community and we want to create more inclusivity for other people to, be a part of these, conversations I'm having with who I believe and who I bring on and I have a lot of amazing soul sisters and people that I see as true divine feminine leaders. And I'm just bringing people on with different backgrounds, with different voices, with different, things that they want to share and messages. And, that's why I've created this series, because divine feminine leadership is on the uprising right now. And women, we have to keep coming together and really sharing and amplifying our voices and connecting our communities, our tribes, so that we get greater access to more people and more voices and more messages. So thank you so much for being here, Baljit.
My pleasure. And thank you.
Of course. It was really fun having this
Yeah.
conversation with you, and I look forward to more in the future. And until
Yes.
then, I love you. Thank you,
I love
sister.
you too.
Thank you. Bye, everybody. Have a beautiful day. Thank you so much for watching and being a part of our conversation. See you next time.
Bye.